Hello, I'm Kat Ford, and this is a panel about finding your niche post-graduation. It's about making connections, avoiding burnout, and finding opportunities in comics. And this is our lovely panel. You guys could do name, pronouns, and then just a little overview of yourself and like maybe a project you're excited about.
My name's Sal Wise, as I guess my pronouns are he and she. I'm probably most known for as an artist on Kira, like illustration. I also do a lot of self-published stuff nowadays, most of what I do. I have experience with working with publishers and working in self-publishing, and the pros and cons of each way of working.
Morning,
Sure.
welcome.
Oh,
yeah.
Name, pronouns, like a little overview of yourself and maybe a project you're excited about.
Oh, okay. I'm Morgan Sawyer. I am a he, him, and I'm working on a comic called Gap, which is with Iron Circus, and that's I'm pretty excited about.
I'm Shannon. Then my pronouns are she, her. I mostly done self-published work. Probably my most popular title is my current book, Punk Lab Girl. I'm working on part 2 right now. It's a graphic comic on medical espionage. And I am the founder of the Comics Accountability Club, like an online community of artists focusing on inclusivity. We also do anthology. And I'm excited to be here.
Hi, my name is Sierra Barnes. I'm also founder of Sierra Bravo, or Sierra Bravo Art. My pronouns are she, her. I've done a bunch of publishing options from webcomics to self-published to micro-publishers to this year. My debut novel, Hans Vogel is Dead, came out through Dark Horse Comics in October. Very excited. They picked up all 3 books, so that is what I'm working on now and probably forever. But yeah, I have other pieces in various anthologies by publishers such as Mad Cave, Bad Neighbor Comics, and Arledge Comics.
Hi, my name is Theodore Taylor. He, him. I'm an author and illustrator. I have about 13 books published, mostly picture books. One is a graphic novel. What I'm excited about, I should be writing a new book. It's in the process, new picture book about photography. So, yeah.
All right, so for the panel, I've got a couple of questions and we'll have questions at the end from the audience. But for now, first question is, what experiences help you prepare to work in comics? It doesn't necessarily have to be formal training or school, just anything that's kind of helped you learn and stuff that you've used going forward.
Open to anyone.
I figured you all take turns.
Oh, okay. We don't want to go on the end. For me, something that helped me with like just panel arrangement and thinking through design was actually going through the mass communications advertising program, thinking about panel and page design as a way of guiding the eye, forcing it direction through good, just practical design, versus only thinking about illustration or painting, thinking about it as a design. So that's been really helpful. That and just being interested in lots of things that aren't comics, just stretching your legs, because I find like if all you do is comics and that's all you think about, then you don't really have as much to say because you're not experiencing things or telling stories that feel authentic. You're just trying to recapture what you've already read.
Foundationally, I want to say, like, I grew up with middle-class parents who were always supportive of my art and like could afford to and were willing to put me through art school. And I think that is like something that's super relevant to like everything else I'm going to say today about like my experience making art. Art school for me was creatively not the most helpful thing, but definitely, you know, takes my I was working a day job and doing like a bunch of art on the side, that's when I kind of had to figure out ways to make art quickly and sustainably. So it's all of those experiences, like in my late teens or early 20s, like that got me to figure out how I wanted to work and how to sustainably work today.
I think for me, like foundation, what possibly prepared me for comics. I mean, I grew up reading comics like most people here, not like the mainstream comics, but maybe more like Captain Underpants and that kids adjacent comics thing. Like I didn't really get into comics until college. I took a sequential arts humanities course, which was more like analyzing comics, and it just kind of like blew my mind just seeing what's out there. It just felt like, because I was doing printmaking at the time, so I felt like I had a strong sense of composition, illustration, all those things, but I was like, I don't know if this is what I want to do. Just like making images and selling them. Like, doesn't, I feel like I have more to say. And discovering comics, it just felt like it was the perfect medium. You could tell any story. You could be as artistically expressive or inexpressive as you wanted to be. You could, go hard or you could go really simple. Like it just felt like an endless potential in terms of a medium. Seized it and went for it and kind of learned as I went. And I think like having like a background in like fine arts helped a little bit, but honestly, I feel like a lot of comics is the Wild West and just figuring things out with trial and error. And starting my club definitely helped keep me like accountable and having feedback from other people. But I think it's kind of like Morgan was saying, like you have to have other experiences and something else. Because I did biology, like I work in the medical field, I feel like that informed my work a lot. So it's about like combining your passion into something that you want to share with the world. Isn't out there already. Could be pretty much anything.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off that.
Do it.
I trained to be a historian.
Yeah.
I didn't take any art classes before I started making comics, and didn't for a while after I made comics. I graduated with a double major in history and German studies and a minor in Slavic studies, so I was like dead people. Yeah, depression, dark winters, sadness. And I had always enjoyed comics and film, which I find kind of to be like kissing cousins. I don't know what's happening there. But yeah, I enjoyed them, and I was like, I grew up reading webcomics. And I was like, webcomics are so cool. Not that I could ever be that cool someday, but they're so cool, and it would just be so cool if I could make one. Not that I could ever be that cool. And then when I came back from graduating college and living abroad for a year, I was working a job I hated and was trying to find history jobs. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make a comic. I'm gonna make a webcomic. It's that way no one has to like it. I don't have to like make it pitchable or worry about who wants to read it. I can make it the most unmarketable thing ever, and it's going to be my unhinged thing. Yeah, and that's really sort of the things that I studied when I was in school became what I made comics about, and like, studying things is cool, and then you make comics about the things that you should. Yeah, and you do a lot of reading as a historian, and then you do a lot more reading as a comics person. Research, it gets you everywhere.
Yeah, I guess what prepared me was doing a lot of comics for fun. I just kind of started doing comics for fun and doing zine shows and things. And then suddenly publishers started checking me as a comic artist, even though most of my work's fictional. They're like, well, you should do a graphic novel. I'm like, okay, I don't know. So, yeah, just kind of doing stuff on my own, and then applying what I learned there to like professional projects. But yeah.
You just kind of do it until someone calls you a comic artist.
Yeah.
You're a comic artist.
Cool. All right, so the next question is about whether there was a pivotal project in discovering how you like to work, like discovering just your comic style and things that helped you with the work. Successes, failures, all things in between are welcome. And I've also got slides. That's the wrong button. Yeah, I've got different slides. I guess whoever is talking, I can just click over to that. But yeah, pivotal projects.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Morgan.
I mean, we can go reverse order, whatever.
No, that's good, it's fine. Pivotal projects. My first published, like, nationally distributed published book was Welcome to Paradise, through Scout Comics, and it taught me a lot about working with a publisher and on a team. And it really pushed me because it's the first one that the reviews went really nicely for me. Because before that, I got told off. My first ever comic review was, I don't like the style of this comic this style of drawing to begin with, but let's go. And I'm like, oh, this is gonna go great for me. Welcome to Paradise was the first time that like I jumped back in, and it went well. It was I just worked with a really great team on the book. I got to do a lot of the design work, and me and the writer are a really good collaborator. And that led to me getting picked up with Gap, which is something that I've been working on for a little bit.
This image from Gap?
Well, this is a proof of concept from Gap. The character's dead now. He's another white zombie. So he works. It's a comic about being in customer service from a dungeon crawler's perspective of the monsters versus the adventure. And then I went to grad school a year or two ago and worked on Mushroom Trip, which that whole experience was just learning how to tell stories and develop my ideas and to push myself to do something that stood on its own without any dialogue, which was a completely different thought process. In every one of these stories, I switch styles, I play with different mediums, things that I'm not comfortable with. Because if I'm not putting a hoop in front of myself that I have to jump through, then I don't really know what I'm doing. So I don't know. Every single thing I've done, like I didn't put it in here, but one of the ones that taught me the most was writing my own story for the first time. Was a conversation with the boatman. It was just dealing with my own emotional issues. So yeah, everything's a stepping stone. So I don't think there's any of that were pivotal to me. Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense because I think as an artist, you're someone that I always see experimenting and doing different things. I actually didn't realize that you've worked with collaborators before. My first comic of yours that I read was Boatman.
Oh, yeah, that was my letterer, Micah Myers, who's also here doing a panel later, or earlier, I don't know. He did it earlier. Damn it. All right, well, you should have seen it. You should have seen it. Why didn't you go? But he told me I misspelled some things in the conversation with the boatman. He was like, why didn't you just contact me? And I'm like, well, I didn't think about it. But yeah, like before that, I was just interested in doing comics, like as a freelance thing. And before I started doing comics as a freelance thing, if anyone had asked me if I wanted to do comics, I would have been like, no, fuck that. It's so much work. I took a comics class in college and I was like, never again. And yet here I am. So yeah, I do love storytelling. All I want to do is tell stories. And comics is one of those mediums that allows you to do it on your own. So.
Okay. Val, any pivotal projects of yours? And let me switch you.
Yeah. Here we go. So pretty much right after, or right out of school, I moved on to working with Sneakcraft on Cheer Up. And for a long time after I graduated, I didn't really have any faith in myself as someone who write comics. I would just saw myself as someone who would play the role of like illustrating comics for other people, bringing other people's ideas to life. Because it wasn't really very good. You can see like the first page was a comic I did while I was in school. And one of the big issues I had when I was still in school was that I was still trying to like live by that rule that they teach you that every page needs to have like 5 to 7 panels, because that's like the sweet spot for comics. Yeah.
Is that a thing?
That's what I was taught, like 5 to 7 panels, yeah.
Oh, no.
So like every page was kind of like a very daunting project in and of itself, to like have that much going on. It's also like it's a chore to work on, and it's a chore for the reader to read. And in 2021, I published Delicatessen. It was the first comic I had both written and illustrated. And a lot of the criticism that I got back about that comic was that it moved too quickly and that it was too short. And that's the second page from that comic. And that was the first time that I kind of realized that I didn't have to keep following those rules that I was taught in school. That like, you know, every page has to have like a certain amount of panels, or like most pages have to have those panels. And I started thinking about how I could control how much time the reader was spending on a certain moment. I feel like with movies and with, you know, audio fiction, like the creator has a lot of control over how much time is spent on certain scenes and certain moments. And when you get to books, and then when you get into comics especially, it's very difficult because people can read at their own pace, regardless of how big or small a panel is. And so when I made my second self-published comic, I Am of Two Hearts, I really wanted to slow down and spend a lot of time with moments that I thought were important. So that's why the comic starts as like a 7-page theme that is pretty much just a handshake. I really wanted like every single subtle detail of that interaction that to come through for the reader, and not just like be something that I was intending. I wanted to like make my intention literal, if that makes sense. And that's been a, you know, foundational point of the way that I make comics like ever since then. And it makes each page less intimidating to both draw and read. Like those pages, like it's way less time than the first two to make.
You can also see like your backgrounds have disappeared too, because you realizing the focus of the moment is those characters, and it's hard to tell yourself, no, I don't need the background, because it feels like you need to do
One
bubble,
background per page.
background,
Yeah.
and you need to do shading, and you need to do. But honestly, it's like what you take away and what you leave behind is way more important and helps with the storytelling, because your reader's going to take a few seconds on the panel. You have to remind yourself that. It doesn't need to be done perfectly. It needs to do what it needs to do in that moment.
Each panel is not a full illustration. The whole page is the full composition.
Right.
All right, sorry, flipping through slides. Oops, wrong way.
Okay.
Any pivotal projects for you?
Yeah, I get, unfortunately, I only submitted one that I'm working on. And it's really interesting to hear from you guys, because you both have experience with like the published side of comics, which is pairing up with other people, collaborating stories, and like working with a publisher that's giving you feedback constantly. I really only have experience with like the independent side completely, like just the very hermitish lifestyle of comics and cartoonists, where they're making everything by themselves and you only get feedback when you're done for the most part, which sucks. But
Can I actually contest that a little?
yeah, please.
Because like you have experience doing a lot of self-published work, and I've only
Right.
ever seen you doing stuff that follows your own voice. But you also ran an anthology for the Comics Accountability Club.
I did
so
do
like
that. I
you
did
have
do that,
small
yeah.
press experience on both sides of the
I had a
table.
lot of help with that.
Okay, but like you can still talk about that. That's something.
Yeah, I do want to. I think I just mean like, I don't know. It for me, it was a lot of trial and error. And I remember the question you talked about, like finding your own style. I feel like that's something that a lot of young cartoonists fixate on, is like, I don't have my style yet. What's my style? Are people recognizing it? And I feel like that's something you find just on accident. And people will say, oh, this looks like you made it. And it's not like I tried to do that. You just arrive at it. And I think experimentation is so important, because like you don't want to limit yourself. You want to grow with each project, and you want it to be a stepping stone. So I feel the same way about my work. I feel like my very first comic that felt like a real accomplishment that I had written and drawn completion was The Hunt Again, which was like a complete cannibalization of like a 100+ page comic that I had planned planned to make, just like everyone starting out, and realizing that it was way too daunting. Was worried about plot holes and all these things, because for me, storytelling was the hard part. Starting out as an artist and putting a story to it was the tough part for me. So I had to adapt and think, like, how do I make this doable for myself? So I took out the dialogue, focused on the art, and I think it helped me, first of all, just feel like I had accomplished something, but also figure out how I wanted to work. So I think that a lot of cartoonists find out by experimentation and feedback, what feels good and what gets things done. Like you're saying, like it's way faster to do this. And I think a lot of cartoonists end up finding a system that is fast for them, but also satisfying and looks good. And I think that's what you should aim towards, not towards making a masterpiece of a page. That's not going to happen every time. Like the masterpiece should be the cover. Make that a masterpiece. Everything else should be about getting your story on the page in a way that's like effective and gets you to finish. That's like the hardest thing to finish. So.
And also, like, everyone gets better
Yeah.
as they're drawing.
Yeah,
comics.
your
Like,
page one is
those
gonna
first
suck.
pages are
Yeah.
like a shame to look at.
Exactly.
compared to the last
But you have to
pages.
keep going. You can't go back and
Yeah.
redraw everything. You have to accept it. Yeah, that's so true.
It's less noticeable to the reader too. Like,
Yeah,
they're really not gonna-
they don't know,
Yeah.
but you know.
I like to work towards the middle, so like
Yeah.
I start
That's
with
smart.
middle pages and then work on my good pages at the beginning and end.
That's another thing someone told me was like, if you're feeling blocked, like draw your favorite parts of the comic and then draw the in-betweens. Like if you have a fight scene, start with the fight scene, have fun. Like the part where the characters are meeting or something. Just find a system that works for you. So I agree with Morgan. All my projects have been pivotal, including the ones that I compiled with my friends and other people. So yeah.
Solid. How about you for Sierra for pivotal projects?
Oh, I'm gonna like disagree with that last point.
Good.
Yeah, so I also only did things from this one project that I've been working on since 2015 and will work on until I die. But like, I gotta start at the beginning and then go.
Oh, yeah,
Everyone's
do everything
different.
in
Yeah,
sequence.
because I
Everyone's
like,
different.
there's the like engineer versus the gardener. Everyone's heard that, like whether or not you plan everything out and make sure that you know what's on every page versus like, and this sort of applies more to prose work, that like prose, you can just like see where everything is going. And like naturally, I think I'm much more of a gardener where I'm like, okay, here's my little guys. I'm gonna put them in a little room. I'm gonna see what they do, and that's like fun. And then they can do things, and then one of them dies, and that's fine. And then more of them die, and that's also fine. But like sometimes the problem with comics is that it really is not inducive to that kind of like storytelling. Like you really can't tell a comic page by page. I mean, you can, but you cannot do it on an industrial scale. And when you certainly can't do it if you have any kind of deadlines, whether that's like a weekly update schedule or a publisher that's like, hello, they will do that. But like, I think one of the things that sort of appealed to me as a webcomic was one, I didn't feel confident at all when I started in 2015 in my artwork or really my writing. But I was like, I have the most unhinged premise ever. It is about a dead Nazi, and he wakes up in an afterlife, and he has to learn that being a Nazi is bad, and do it all through the world of the Brothers Grimm fairy tales, which are anti-fascism and fairy tales, two things that I love. And again, I was like, I'm doing this only for me, because no one else is ever going to be like interested in it at all. Putting yourself down like this is not good, but sometimes you have to think you're the only person in the room if you want to let.
Be the biggest fan of your own stuff, or you're not gonna have fun making it.
Exactly, and you really do have to make it for you. And like the thing about webcomics that I've always loved as a reader is how much the art changes from beginning to end. Like I don't know if y'all have read Gunner Creek Court by Tom Siddell.
Foundational.
It is, yeah, the GOAT. It's been reading for like 20 years at this point. I read it religiously since I was in high school. And it's like, you go back to the early, it's on page like 1200 or something. I don't know. He's truly unhinged comic making. The guy is updated every week, almost without fail, 3 times a week. I wish I could.
Tired.
I know, yeah,
don't
like,
worry about that.
you will age 10 years thinking about that. But like the art at the start is just radically different from the art at the final stage. And you don't really notice it until you, like me, are on page 1200 and go, wow, you know what? I should go back to the beginning. Then you go back to the beginning and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
But you know, I love it because it feels like you are growing with the creator as an artist. You are all spending, the nice thing about webcomics is because they update in real time and you are reading one page a week, you are spending that real time with the artist as they are growing, as they are making pages, and that really appealed to me. And part of that is, you know, you do a page and you upload it and you're like, nice, I've done the page and I've uploaded it. And you look at the page and you have a week before the next page goes up and you can go, oh, you know what, maybe I will, I've said something kind of cool on this page. Maybe I didn't really riff on it in the script, but
Right,
maybe,
it's adapted week
yeah,
week
maybe
by week.
I'll change it a little bit. And I love doing that. I always gotta work beginning to end because I don't really like the last chapter of volume 1 for Hans Vogel. I straight up added 5 pages to the last chapter because I scripted a chapter and was like, I don't really like this, but I gotta get this book done or I'm going to explode. And then as I was doing it, I was like, oh God, this ending really is bothering me. It's like itching under my skin. I can't do it. I'm just gonna add another page. And then it was 2 pages, and then it was 4 pages, and then it was 5 pages. But I was happy with how it ended. And like, if I had just gone through and my process has changed and I sort of work more now along the lines of everything that's scripted, like now that I've been picked up by a publisher, like once the script is approved, that's it, baby cakes. That is, unless I have like some kind of angel descends from above and is like, Sierra, you must change that page. And that page is happening as the script is happening. And it works. I'm certainly making pages faster than I ever have before, but I do kind of miss the chaotic energy of finishing a page and going, what is next? What is next?
Okay, so like more of a pivot between the formats of comics than it is like the different projects.
Yeah, I don't think I was really, like I knew that there was going to be differences between writing for webcomics and yourself, which is sort of the ultimate hermit edition. Like you are sort of like, unless people are kind enough to leave comments on your page, you really are sort of like making it in a
You're like
void.
forcing your friends to say,
Yeah.
just say it looks nice, just
Yeah,
give
please,
it to me.
please tell me something weird that I've
Yeah.
done on this page. Thank you. You're truly just making pages and throwing them into the void. It feels very much like the old medieval monks, like drawing a manuscript and then like throwing it out of the window with a bird attached to it and hoping that it reaches the king. Versus like doing a publisher, and I love my 2 editors that are working with this. They're fabulous if they're listening. Shout out to you guys. But I literally tell them to check in on me once a month to be like, you're doing great. You're doing a good job in comics, which is normal to want, impossible to achieve. You're okay because the crippling loneliness is real and something to address.
Titan, how about quick little project Screen?
Yeah. I'd say in terms of comics, Garvey's Choice would be my pivotal project. Before this, like my comics were like a 10-page comic I made at home, or like a 1-page comic I would do for some publication. But somebody contacted me and asked me if I wanted to do a graphic novel, and that was something I was dead set on not doing because it seemed like a lot of work. And before this, like a lot of my work was picture books, and with picture books, like it's like 18 drawings. Like I can do, like I don't have a problem making every page like look awesome and like with lots of detail. But with Garvey's Choice, I just learned a lot of things not to do. We've ran into a lot of hurdles because it's an adaptation of Nikki Grimes' book of poems called Garvey's Choice. And like I tried sketching out the whole thing, and like I had word bubbles in places I wanted them, and and I had the text laid out sort of, and they're like I have the whole thing, and they're like, well, Nikki says you can't break sentences because it's a poem. And I'm like, well,
Oh, no.
Well, crap.
Not
so
anymore.
like it was kind of a mess. But I don't know. I'm glad I got it done.
Yeah, sure. Feel that.
But like in the same year, I had 2 other books I was working on, and it was just a lot. And I was really tired after that. I guess my other pivotal work is Off the Wall. It's my first picture book that I wrote and illustrated about graffiti. Kind of like it's like me in the form of a picture book, and yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna see if we can speed this up a little bit because I maybe wrote too many questions. Tips on handling transitional periods, graduation, moving, shifting careers, stuff like that.
Tips for handling transitional periods. I mean, it's just working. It's just drawing. Like it's finding the time to do anything, writing out an idea if your art supplies are packed and you're having to do something else. Like I just have sketchbooks where I thumbnail things. Like I'm a big planner. Like the actual art making of my comics only ever takes like 2-3 weeks. For like
Wow.
60 pages. So,
You bragging right now?
yeah. But like it's like months of planning.
Right.
It's like I have all my thumbnails
Right.
planned. I have my scripts written.
People don't see that.
So yeah, like I spend a lot of time on the prep work. So like transitional periods of moving and doing stuff like that. It's mostly me sketching and plotting. Just in my dark room plotting. So that's that tends to be that, and taking breaks from comics every once in a while. Comics is hard. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of it's just a lot of time. And then how it's received can mentally impact you. I know me and everyone on the team for Welcome to Paradise, all our dads died the same month.
Wow.
So like we took a break.
Yeah.
We took a break just to emotionally get back together. So like that was a little rough. Yeah. So taking time to redefine what you want and like to create stuff that isn't just comics and to have some fun. Anything to recharge. So
Val, handling transitional periods.
Yeah, the transitional period I wanted to talk about was like how I started out in traditional publishing onto self-publishing from traditional publishing and like not having editor and like not having an advance, even though the advance Tony Texas advances are not good. I will tell you that.
Wow.
No, I will tell you that.
Oh, you're telling
They
me.
were not good. I made more money off of Delicatessen than my advance. But like not having the support of an editor and kind of just having to like fly out through my pants essentially. Just like, is this good? Like, does it make any sense? Like
Yeah.
things that would
You don't
normally
have
get.
people helping
Yeah.
you eat that free.
Yeah, but you can find people to help you. Like
Mhm.
that's if you like have friends who do comics, you can make them look at it and be like, please tell me everything that's wrong with this. Like this was read correctly. And just like the distribution of it, and everything like that. Like the company would handle that. But you can just put stuff up on like Itch.io, not Gumroad. Yeah. But you can just, or like on Patreon, like no one is stopping you from doing that. The only thing is that you have to find the time to do it, and when you're not being paid up front, it is definitely more difficult to find that time and make it feel worth it. But the biggest like mental hurdle for me in like moving away from traditional publishing was like getting used to being able to do whatever I wanted. And like do stuff that is unmarketable and weird. And trusting myself, having faith in myself to make something good, even though like I feel like I'm making it in the shadows like 90% of the time.
Nice. All right, Shannon, transitional periods, how do you handle those?
Terribly. I think the biggest hurdle for me was social media and comparing yourself to others. I definitely have a way healthier relationship with Instagram and all those now because I think I learned how to use it as a tool for seeing what my peers are working on and getting excited about things, but knowing when to shut it off and when to post and, put it away for the day. Because it'll really, that mental roadblock, you can't underestimate it. If you have a nagging thought in the back of your mind that you're not good enough, you're not gonna want to draw, you're not gonna want to write. And so when I first started comics, it was really hard for me because I think I set really high expectations. Like I gotta do a page today. I gotta do 2 pages today. I gotta do 3 pages today. And you end up doing none. You're so scared that you're gonna mess up and I don't know if I have like a step-by-step guide on how to get over that, but I think it helped to just like surround myself with other people that were into the same thing that I was and as ambitious as I was and like inspired me like on a personal level and not just like these people I had put on a pedestal in my mind that were, every time I opened the app, like, oh, here's a 30-page comic that I just made. You're not seeing their process. You're not seeing the dark room where they're plotting it for months. You're just seeing the finished product. And you have to remind yourself that, like, they're human, you're human. You have a limit, they have a limit. And you should focus more on what makes you happy and what you can put out there. So, transitional periods, surround yourself with people that are going to inspire you and lift you up. Cut out the people that are bringing you down, which is really hard to do. Do it. And set yourself up for success. Like, try something, set a goal, but if you don't meet that goal, don't put yourself down. Just be like, how do I make this attainable? If I can't do 2 pages, can I do 1 page? Can I up it to 1.5 if I set myself up? Like, it took me a while to figure out the routine I like, which is like something that people ask about all the time. You're like, when do you draw? What do you draw with? How do you get it done? It's like, it's different for everybody. Like Morgan said, he's a planner. Like I plan very long, but it's like the thumbnail stage for me takes the longest. It's the hardest thing for me to do. But then the art part is very fast. But for some people, it's the opposite. They write it in like a week, and the drawing takes 6 months. So don't be like, I have to draw exactly like this person. Find out what works for you. Surround yourself.
Yeah, I'm the second kind of person.
Great.
Yeah, I don't do thumbnails. I just sketch it to size because I can't think small. And then I'm like a bajillion years of thinking.
Right.
And then 5 seconds of coloring.
Right. That's great.
I'm lying. Yeah, transitional periods. Finding, I don't know, I think finding a network of people who support you is always like a good advice, transitional period or no. I feel like I'm kind of going through the reverse transitional period of you, Val, like going from indie to like having a publisher, and sometimes it's a little bit like,
I think that's more common though.
yeah, it's a little weird kind of going from like being in your hobbit hole, being like, oh gosh, I'm in my hobbit hole, and then being like, oh yeah, there's someone outside. And I can't like, sometimes I feel a little bit like a whipped dog, and then I'm like, oh my God, there's a guy who's in the room with me while I'm working.
Right.
Is he going to think it's good? Is he going to think it's bad? Oh, he's going to think it's bad, probably. And like, yeah, having a support net, like, I don't know, it doesn't matter how many you're doing a great job emails that I will get from my editor, there's still a little part of me that's like, yeah, so like, I don't know, learning to work with that, learning to work on another person's schedule has been a struggle. So far, I have been early on all deadlines involving everything except inking. And then inking, I'm like months late. So it evens out, I hope. Yeah, I mean, a lot of transitional period is just sort of like figuring out what you're going to do now. And I guess the big thing is like learning to get over it. Like the first week that I spent living in Austria, literally like I graduated and then like spent a month working and then flew to Austria. And the first week I was there, I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm not going out and speaking German to people. I'm not going to a museum and ingesting culture. I'm not taking a trip to some Alp and skiing or something. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I need to be A+ing every day. I need to be overachieving every day that I'm in the country. How long am I going to be here? And sort of gradually what I learned is that, like, you don't need to get an A+ in every day of living. You kind of just need to pass. Life is pass fail, it turns out. And if you wake up the next day, then, like, great job, you passed. And like, that was a stupidly hard lesson for me to learn, actually. And I don't think that I, like, hear a lot of people talking about it, but sometimes, like, if you don't get a page done, that's fine. If
It's
you don't
fine,
get a panel
because the
done,
next day you might get 2 done.
exactly. Or you might
Yeah.
get none done
You might get
again,
none.
and that's also fine.
It's like this.
As long as you're here,
Yeah.
you have
Your
that,
comic
that
is still
chance.
there.
Yeah, it'll still be there, and you can, like, I haven't inked for the last 2 days, and is it stressing me out? Yes,
Yeah.
immensely.
But you're coping.
But we are. It's fine. It's fine. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you just gotta, like, sit down and stare into space for a while, and that's okay.
Betty, how do you handle transitional periods?
Yeah, I think my transition right now is, I finished 3 books last year, and now I'm not doing anything.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
See, I'm just staring into space.
Yeah.
Just 'cause I,
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just, I don't feel like picking up my iPad and drawing. I've been getting into photography, like other things, just
Awesome.
focus, yeah, I carry it. Just doing other things. And then, like, I'm slowly starting to want to draw stuff again. So, yeah, just trying to take a break and do some other stuff is good, I think.
Absolutely.
And then, like, I have this book I'm supposed to be working on in the background, but I just haven't gotten around to it. But I'm just working up the motivation to just do it. It's just taking a while. So, but there's, like, no rush, I guess.
Oh, you're so chill.
Yeah, but, like, I'm in a comfortable spot.
What do you think is, like, helping you feel comfortable? You just
Um,
know that you need the break, and so you're letting yourself.
Yeah, I mean, in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, what if nobody wants to publish this, and then I don't have any more book projects ever? And, like, but, but just, I don't know, I just have a lot of other stuff going on. Like, I don't, like,
Keeping yourself busy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just distraction, which can be good and bad. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna mash these next 2 questions together because I feel like they tie together. How have you found or made community with comics, and has that helped you get your work out or find comic opportunities?
Oh, it's me again. All right.
It can be. We can go in different orders.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Finding finding community in comics and new opportunities.
Yeah.
I mean, doing stuff like this, going to conventions, talking to people. Richmond is like a big small town. Like, it just feels like everyone knows someone, or it's like the 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon, but with every individual in Richmond. It's like, oh, I know that. So, like, you sort of kind of end up just by doing things and showing up just in people's peripherals and having communities. Like, I remember some of my best friends came from just showing up at someone else's critique and them asking to show, and then it's like, oh, we're gonna be friends. It's like, oh, okay, I don't get a choice. So it's been really fun, but, like, just talking to people, meeting people. I met Shannon at a comic convention. I pretty much I met Eddie at a comic convention, Alex at a comic convention, and at my friend's studio space. So like it's just you just sort of meet people, and then you form friendships, and friendships are all that I really look for anyway. So like it's not I'm not like looking to like network. It's just I'm looking to hang out. And that trickles into things. As far as getting comic projects, I get a lot of people who contact me. I don't really understand how they found me, and when I ask, they're always like, I don't know. I'm like, that's super useful for my marketing.
Yeah.
So like I've worked with like weird companies like Mischief, which did those stupid red boots, the like big Astro Boy boots.
Oh.
I worked with them because they decided they wanted to do a comic magazine. It's the best I've ever been paid for a single comic of 5 pages.
Oh.
But like when I asked how they found me, they're like, and I'm like, okay. So like I sort of feel like I luck into things. Like my writer for Welcome to Paradise was like, I don't know how I found you, but I really like your work. And I'm like, that's
Yeah, but the thing was you had to get
Yeah.
the work in front of.
yeah. I
it
just
was
had to pull
probably-
work out. It was just
Yeah,
it was just constantly throwing stuff
Yeah.
that I thought was funny or that like I was interested in and drawing it. I don't do a lot of fan art, so it was a lot of just my own weird things, and that got people engaging with me wherever they were engaging with me, and going to comic conventions is more than likely how most people ended up running into me, because that's where I just pass out my business cards, and even if like it doesn't mean anything in sales, because that was something I had to get over early in my career. Was like, oh man, I didn't make back any money. It's like,
Yeah.
it's,
You're making
I
it-
put myself in there in the mix, and that has evolved into just opportunities. So just that's how I've made community. It's just I made friends, and then those friends turned into thing, and then people holding me accountable and being like, hey, you need to work on this. That's the kind of friendships I have. So cool.
Great.
Val, how about you?
Okay, completely agree with everything Murray said. But I am a hermit. My first comic convention I've ever done, I've been making comics for like professionally for like 6 years. So I'll just say how I got the first 2 comic novel jobs that I did. Every year when I was in our school at SCAD, there was a thing called Editor's Day, which is just like a portfolio, like we would show your stuff to editors. When I was 19, I had the crappiest portfolio in the world. I didn't know how to print stuff. I was printing in RGB, and so it all looked like mud. But I met Ari Yarwood and like showed my stuff to her, and she followed me on Twitter. And then like 3 years later, when I kind of clearly knew what I was doing a little bit better, by the time I was like 21, so she reached out to me to work with Indie Press. And it was another portfolio review year that I met Andrea Colvin, who connected me with Ian Stewart, who I love, who is the best editor I've ever had, where I got to work on my second graphic novel a couple years later. So like just meeting people and like getting your portfolio in front of them, and you don't have to like be in art school to go to a portfolio review. A lot of them nowadays, especially since the pandemic, like have been online. And people on Twitter will just be like, oh, I'll review your portfolio, and regardless or not, if you get work out of that, they know your name, they might follow your social media and see what you're doing, and then when they have an available opportunity, they reach out to you. But yeah, just getting to work in front of people, the results of doing that, like probably won't like be immediate, but like you just gotta keep doing it. And I know it sucks. I really hate self-promotion. It's very difficult for me to talk about my work with other people. But you just gotta do it. It's worth it, and it helps you build community with other artists as well.
Great. Shannon, I feel like you've got a really interesting answer for this.
Oh,
Community
thank
in
you.
comics.
Yeah, finding community in comics. I had to make my own community, really. I mean, first of all, when I started out, I was in Richmond, and surprisingly, there are quite a few comic shows here, and I had just started out, and I started meeting people, and that's going to be the common thread. Everyone's going to say people, because getting opportunities is about, people remembering you, and people seeing your stuff and being like, maybe they'll be interested in this, but when I left Richmond and moved up to New York City, I kind of expected, you know, things to fall into place. You know, New York City is where all the art stuff is happening. Clearly, there's going to be more stuff going on. And I was right. There is more stuff going on, but it's a lot more closed off. Like I found myself getting rejected from things and feeling what exactly oversaturated. So I felt like an outsider, and it really hurt. I think my progression, but I also think I've grown a ton because it forced me to make my own community, the Comics Accountability Club, and say, you know, I want to make comics. I know there's other people out there that feel like outsiders and feel like they want to make comics, but they don't know how, or they want to support each other. So that's just kind of what I did. Is just like, hey, join my Discord. Let's just hang out and talk comics and motivate each other and inspire each other. And it's like blossomed into something even more than me. And my best friend Kathy is helping me run it. And like we're doing like way too much, we're making way too many books. But it's just like there's so many people out there that love comics, and now it's like my obsession. So I think you can forge your own path even if you know you don't if you don't have the strength to like go in person and you know put yourself out there. You can do it behind your keyboard until you feel comfortable. But it's really important. It's something you have to do. Is put your work out there. Find people that like you genuinely want to be friends with. A lot of the best friends I made in comics, I just like went up to their stuff. I'm like, let's be best friends. Like I love your stuff. You're gonna love mine because it looks kind of like yours. And that's just kind of how it goes. Like, but if it's genuine, you know, something good can happen in the future. And like I was saying, you don't know how that's gonna come back. So it's just about community and working and you know making your own space because there's not always going to be room for you, but like you kind of have to make your own room, do your own thing, and people see you doing your own thing. They find it inspiring, and they see how genuine you are, and it just leads to things eventually.
Do it weird and do it earnestly.
Yeah, earnestly, because people can tell when you're kissing up. Or like if someone kisses up to you, you know, you feel it. So you know if you're just talking to someone and trying to like, you know, don't do that. Don't go to someone with the idea of like I want them to give me an opportunity. If you give out opportunities and you're genuine to people, they're gonna be genuine back to you. So just make comics and love it and share it and join my club.
We have like 5 minutes left, so you guys do really quick answers, and then we can have audience questions.
Yeah, quick answers. A lot of comics networking is kind of like being the guy with the lion with the thorn in his paw, and that you're gonna pull it out, and
Yeah.
you don't know if that lion is ever gonna come back to you, but you got to be like, yeah, you know what, I was nice, and that's what it works. Networking is like a really bad term. A lot of the work that I've gotten is just because I've been friendly to people at shows or like weird on Twitter, and people have been like, oh, she did an entire live tweet of the movie Troy where she talked about the historical angle of it, and then
And I like that.
and then I got noticed by an Eisner Award-winning comic artist that way. So you never know who's watching. Yeah, but I don't know. I liked history. I still like history. I love history. So that's like the kind of stuff that I talk about. And people who like history will be like, that's awesome. People who don't are
Right.
not so
They're
much.
not your audience.
And that's fine. So yeah, most of the jobs that I've gotten have been like, I'm a weird historian person who also makes comics, and other weird historian people go, hey, I would like a comic.
Yeah, exactly. So finding your niche and just owning it.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
Oh wait, that's
Oh my God! We said the name, the title, the panel.
Alright.
Yeah. Great job. Back it up.
Yeah, for me, finding community started with art school.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of, I moved up to DC for 8 years, didn't really have an art community there.
Wait, are you still with me?
No.
Oh.
I came back here because all my friends, all my art friends are here.
Yeah, same.
And then, like, friends from art school had other friends, and then it just kind of spread from there. In terms of finding opportunities, mine came from just posting my work online a lot. I was doing a lot of music-oriented stuff back in like 2013, and my first art director saw my work on Flickr.
Flickr.
And they're like, hey, you want to make a picture book about music? I was like, sure. And then it just kind of grew up from
You
there.
never know who's watching or where.
Yeah.
She was very famous on Flickr for having a connect the dot tattoo. You might have seen it like
Yeah.
years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Social media is kind of different now. Like I got the agent through Twitter. Like they have like a Black Illustrator hashtag. And somebody was like, "I'll be your agent." I was like, "Sweet." But now I've sworn off of Twitter. Flickr's dead.
Yeah.
DeviantArt's dead. Well, sort of.
R.I.P.
So it's just kind of Instagram now, and Instagram's weird. So
Yeah.
all about reels. I don't know.
Please don't make me make a video.
I think also like just don't be a dick.
yeah. Golden advice.
That's like it's the easiest is like everyone has bad days. Don't make it other people's day.
We're all
Like
comic artists, we're sensitive, we remember that stuff.
well, it's also like if you've ever met someone and that's their first impression, like
Right.
then you see them later, it's like, oh, that guy
Yeah.
sucks. Why is he here? And then it's just like continuous, and it's like you end up earning a bad rep just because you had one bad day. And like
That's
a
so
lot of this is
true.
collaboration and working with other people. So like,
And people will recommend you too. If you're nice to someone, they might mention your name to someone else. You don't know.
yeah, so yeah, be nice. Don't be a dick.
Yeah, comics is very much a team sport.
Yeah,
All right.
recommend artists people when you can't take opportunities. Like, I can take
Yeah.
up
Help your friends out.
Yeah.
All right, audience questions.
Yeah, maybe.
I have a question just sort of similar to like the whole hermit thing that y'all were going over. My friends and I have all graduated at roughly the same time, and we're all very interested in comics. And we have basically no experience, and we're working on a project together.
Hell
And
yeah.
it's nice to have a community, but since we're all at the same like experience level, it feels a little bit like blind leading the blind. And so then I'm like trying to critique what we're working on, and I'm like, I don't know if I hate this because it's bad, or if I hate this because I've been looking at it for a really long time, and it's different. We just graduated, and in school you can just show it to your professor and be like, hey, does this suck? And they'll go, no, this doesn't suck, or they'll go, yes, it does, but if you change this, this, and this, it'll be fine. And so when you suddenly lose that, like,
Right.
that
Yeah.
that like figure in the sky,
Oh,
like
yeah.
things are sort of passed up to, and then they give it back to you.
First of all, Maggie, you do have experience, and I know that from calling you out.
Okay,
You and your friends.
experience
Yeah.
specifically with fiction comics.
Yeah, okay, that's better. Everyone stop by the VCU table, see
Yeah.
their work.
They had a Dr. Means.
Say hi to Dr. Means and collect some.
So you're wondering like
great pictures.
how to get that feedback?
Yes, or
Or
like,
like just ask for it. Like if so experience with fiction, so are you doing nonfiction?
yeah, I'm currently doing nonfiction, which is a little like, right, I guess easier to critique, because they can be like, well, that's wrong. And you're like, okay, I'll fix that.
Post it
Right.
online.
Post it online.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's someone at a convention that does nonfiction that you like, go up and like trade with them, or just like, hey, I need this comic here, have a copy. Like, I'd love to know your thoughts, and hit them up later or something. I mean, some people won't answer that sort of thing, but most people are friendly. Like, if you're genuine, then they'll be genuine back. Like you said.
Having a comic that's available for free that other people
Yeah.
can look at is a great way to get critique.
Yeah.
Because then, you know,
Yes.
even if you are like asking people, hey, does
Yeah.
this suck? You can just like
Yeah.
send them a link, and that is,
Yeah.
even if they don't find it, you can send them that way. Also, speaking of nonfiction, I don't know if you had heard of the Nonfiction Comics Fest.
There's an entire fest.
Yeah, they just started, it's in Vermont next
Yeah.
weekend.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's a little late now, maybe, I don't know if you can go up to Vermont next weekend. But like, keep on your radar, for sure, I don't know
Yeah.
people's travel schedule.
Of course, it's in Vermont, I think.
I know,
Perfect.
right?
Yeah.
Vermont has
Right.
an airport that is the exact same as Richmond's. So like
Tiny.
What?
in like Burlington, Vermont, like if you fly in and you came out of Richmond Airport, I fell asleep on the plane.
You were like,
And I was like, why the fuck haven't we left? I was standing out there and I noticed all the pillars of wood. Sorry. So, you know, go to Vermont. It's
Burlington is
worth
not
seeing the
a-
airport.
Probably.
Are there other audience questions?
Hi, how do you recommend managing your time? Like, I have to pay rent and stuff, and like go to work pretty consistently, and that eats up a lot of my time during the week. And How do you recommend managing going to work, paying your bills, and also building a portfolio and doing this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I have to manage my time. I have an 8-year-old and a day job.
Ooh,
Yet here you are. Hell yeah.
What helps me a lot is having an iPad. Because I can just
Right.
follow wherever I want.
yeah, it was convenient. When I moved to New York, I had a huge commute for an hour. And I started doing a comic on the subway. Subway was the only time. Like, you have to make, if you care about something, you gotta make it fit in your schedule. You gotta force it in there.
Like, we're pretty habit-based creatures. Like, if you set a schedule of like, I need to, like, this is the time I'm gonna
Yeah.
sit in my studio or sit in front of this object to draw. Even if you don't do anything, at least you're giving yourself the opportunity to do that.
Exactly.
So just setting up a time slot that this is when I work. And then after that, this is when I have break or I'm free on your days off. I definitely understand working too much and
Oh,
then
yeah.
having to doing my own freelance stuff.
And I worked as a barista for a while, and then I was working on 2 graphic novels, which don't do that. But the way that I made it work for me was that I broke everything down into like bite-sized chunks. So like one day I was like, okay, I'll rough 3 pages, I'll rough 3 pages the next day, then I'll sketch them, then I'll sketch them, I'll ink them, and so on. Which it makes it seem less daunting when
Yeah.
it's like I only have to do
Little
this
bit
one
at a
little
time.
part of this project. I don't have to like do a whole page start to finish in one day. And just like doing like if you're like, oh, I'm gonna sketch like however many pages today, like then you're just like in sketching mode, and it's really easy to stay in sketching mode. Then like here I'm gonna sketch and I'm gonna ink. And your brain has to like make that switch. That's how I made it work then. I also brought such work and did it on my brain. If you want to do that,
Yeah.
it's possible.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it adds up. That tiny bit of work every day adds up.
I work from home and I be by myself working on stuff that's not working right.
Great, we've gotten the time signal, so I think that is everything. That said, if any of you want resources on comics, I have this little QR code. Scan it real quick. It also should have links to comic accountability clubs, places that you can post comics, read comics. And yeah, I think that is all to the panel. So if you could just give them a lovely round of applause, I think it's delightful.
Thank you for hosting.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.